They didn't stop moving after Kaelruun spoke, and they didn't stop when the truth settled into something none of them could unlearn. If anything, they moved cleaner and more precisely, because the hesitation was gone now, not because the path ahead was safe, but because it was finally clear. The corridors narrowed as they descended, and the ship's structure shifted from controlled design into something more utilitarian, less polished, and more functional. This wasn't where things were processed. This was where things were decided. Everlyn walked at the front, not fast and not slow, but certain. Behind her, the pack followed, with Kane tracking the forward angles and measuring every step against threat, while Malek held the rear and anchored the group without needing to be told. Lira moved along the edge of their path, her awareness stretching beyond sight and beyond sound, while the others followed too, no longer as individuals, but as part of something that had remembered itself. And behind them walked Kaelruun, silent and present, exactly where he had always intended to be. Across the ship, Kaelin reached the threshold first, and the corridor ahead didn't open into another junction, but into something deeper. It opened into a chamber unlike the others, larger, structured, and layered, the kind of place that didn't just hold systems, but controlled them. Kaelin stopped just short of the opening, not out of fear, but out of instinct, because this was it. She sent the thought through the link. I found it. Everlyn slowed just slightly, and the pack adjusted with her instantly as Kane stepped closer. Malek shifted forward, and Lira went still. No one spoke because they didn't need to. Everlyn felt the shape of what was ahead through Kaelin, not clearly and not visually, but enough to understand what waited beyond that threshold. This was where the missing threads led, where the taken were held, where they were studied, and where they were changed. Everlyn took one more step, then stopped, and for the first time since the breakout, she didn't move forward. The corridor seemed to hold its breath, and Kane noticed it immediately. "What is it?" he asked. Everlyn didn't answer right away, because this wasn't hesitation. This was choice. "If we go in," she said quietly, "we don't come back the same way." No one argued. Malek's jaw tightened, Lira's gaze sharpened, and Kaelruun didn't move because he already knew. Everlyn continued. "We can still leave." That landed, not as hope, but as fact. "They're adjusting the ship," she said. "Rerouting. Preparing for something bigger." She didn't need to say what, because they all felt the word behind it. Elimination. Kane exhaled slowly. "So we leave," he said. For one moment, there was a path in front of them that looked clear, clean, and alive. Everlyn nodded once. "If we leave now, we survive." Silence followed, longer this time and heavier, because survival was no longer the only measure. Across the ship, Kaelin remained still at the edge of the chamber, not moving forward and not retreating. She waited, because she knew this moment didn't belong to her. It belonged to Everlyn. Back in the corridor, Everlyn lifted her head slightly, not toward the path behind them, but toward the one ahead. She looked toward the absence she could still feel, toward the threads that hadn't answered. "They're still here," she said, quiet and certain. "They're down there." No one questioned it, because they all felt it now. The shape of the pack was incomplete. Kane didn't ask again. Malek didn't shift, and Lira didn't speak. They were waiting, not for orders, but for truth. Everlyn took a breath, not deep and not dramatic, but just enough. "If we leave," she said, "we live." The words didn't echo. They settled. Then she finished it. "But we don't leave as a pack." That was the line, and the decision had already been made before she gave it shape. Kane nodded once, without hesitation. Malek exhaled, heavy and grounded, and accepted it. Lira stepped forward, not past Everlyn, but with her. Across the link, Kaelin allowed herself the smallest shift in posture, and it was relief. Not because it was safe, but because it was decided. Everlyn moved forward into the deeper part of the ship, without speech and without command. There was only action. The pack followed, not because they were told to, but because there was no other path. Behind them, the ship continued its adjustments, its systems aligning toward a new objective, while ahead of them waited the place where the Xarthians learned how to reshape what they captured. And this time, the wolves were going there on purpose. Kaelruun moved last, pausing for half a second at the threshold where retreat was still possible. Then he stepped forward. The vow had been fulfilled. Now the war began.